Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. We are here at the Audioholics Smarthome, boots on the ground. We got Walker Peak from Commercial Acoustics.
Hey guys.
How you doing, my friend?
Hey, good to be back with you guys. Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you back, Walker. And why we have Walker here today is we're all about sound isolation. Walker's about making this room more quiet. This is the primary theater room, and the goal here is to sound isolate this room from the rest of the house. So I could be slamming in here, playing Post Malone, shaking the house, having lots of sound without my wife if she's trying to nap or she's trying to watch one of her soap
what
operas.
What time is this happening? What time of night are we talking about?
It happens all day long.
In the afternoon?
Happens all day long at the Audioholics Smart Home.
It's like a cat.
As you know, I work late. I like to party late. I like to listen to music late. So we want this room quiet and isolated. But most importantly, too, the real reason why I'm doing this, and my wife thinks it's just for sound isolation, the real reason why I'm doing this is to make the room quieter, to preserve dynamic range, to improve fidelity. As we get older, we want to get as much fidelity as we can. And the best way to do that is to make your room quiet. Gives it a fighting chance. Lower the noise floor in the room. You increase the dynamic range. You hear things better. So Walker, why don't we talk about this wall? Why is this wall so important? Why do we have to do so many tricks to this wall in particular to the rest of the room?
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I came out here, a few months back when you guys were first designing the layout. Really smart how you did it. The room here is like over in a corner of the house. You've got CMU on 3 sides, concrete masonry units. So, and this room is isolated from the rest of the house already, and you have excellent exterior isolation. We plugged a few holes with the polystyrene foam with kind of a custom fabric on it to look good and also block noise going through the windows. And this wall is the trouble wall, okay? So this is the only wall that had to connect to the rest of the house. Really smart what you did here to the left. Can you see the doors here? We got a double door setup. And that's a big issue that a lot of people have when building their studios. They put a single door, even if it's STC rated, like an STC 40, which will cost you about $5,000 or so. I think I sent you some quotes. Right. If you can just do a double solid core door, then you're immediately getting like STC 55, 60 and really stopping most of the sound going through the wall. And then on this wall, we've got 2 things. So if you'll hold that for me, we got putty pads on the back of each of the outlets. That's what goes on the back of the junction box to keep sound from slipping through these little 2-inch by 3 or 4-inch holes. And it kind of gives it a nice STC rating, sound transmission class on the back of the junction boxes. And then we have our wall blocker masseted vinyl, heavy duty soundproofing layer that's going to also stop the sound going through the wall right here.
And what about the stud structure that we did here?
So, some general contractors want to stick with your vanilla, just 2x6, 2x4 wood stud. The best thing you can do is move your studs to 24 on center, like we talked about the last time, and then also stagger your studs. If you can do a 2x6 base plate with 2x4s staggered, so one stud never touches both layers of drywall, huge win. And you can get an extra 10 points by just doing that.
So we have... Let's just recap here. We have staggered studs. We have mineral fiber insulation behind those staggered studs, and we have the MLV barrier. What do you think the STC rating of this wall is going to be?
So with the staggered studs, you're up in the mid to high 50s. If you were just doing a 2x6 wall with 2 layers of drywall on each side, you'd be at like 40, 38 or 40. So people say thin wall, hey, you don't want thin walls. You really just don't want very rigid walls. So by adding in the wall blocker mass-loaded vinyl, by adding in the staggered stud assembly, you're getting a great performance here.
Awesome. Now, what about the ceiling? I know we talked about possibly putting some treatment on the ceiling, but then you kind of told me there were reasons why we don't necessarily need that, and it could be too complicated. And also the builder doesn't want to involve themselves in putting things up in the ceiling that, the standard drywall people don't do.
Anything custom obviously comes with an upcharge. Kind of two big considerations. Once again, excellent layout up front. You've got your room isolated in the front of the house, and there's nothing above the room. If you've got a kid's room, bedroom, something like that right above kind of your media room or your playroom, for lack of a better term, that's a major issue. And what you would want to use then is a Kinetics wave hanger or an ICC clip, something that's like a spring-loaded mechanism to float that ceiling. Or you could also use the wall blocker on the ceiling behind the drywall. But because you guys have your studs or your joists going left to right, you don't have any way for the sound to vibrate or transmit to the rest of the house. So you just save yourself $3,000 or $4,000.
Nice. Now, let me ask you this. If we have the side walls are all insulated, they've got studs on them, it's got concrete. Do you think we're pretty good? We're in good shape with that? We don't need the MLV barrier on those walls?
Excellent. Yep, exactly. So the MLV, it's usually not meant for exterior walls. It's semi-permeable, so you will get some, not mildew, what's the word I'm looking for? Humidity or moisture buildup in those walls. Now, with done correctly, it can be done, certainly, but it just adds a layer of complexity. Your best bet is CMU exterior walls, and then just doing larger furring strips, 2-inch furring instead of a 2x1 sideways. The real takeaway is where you've got CMU and where you've got an isolated room, you're in great shape. Use the wall blocker to isolate you from the rest of the house. If you're surrounded on all sides by wood or metal studs and you have somebody directly above you, you really need the vinyl barrier on all sides and the ceiling. So it starts with good architecture, good design, and it's supplemented by good stud layout and good barrier usage.
Okay, so I got 2 more questions for you.
Yeah.
Number one, how come we didn't tape where the MLV kind of terminates on the wall? And then what's the best practice for sealing up the ceiling and the floor when the drywall goes up?
Yep. So the reason we don't use the seam seal tape, if the MLV wall blocker is hitting the studs, when you place the drywall on the studs, it presses down and it gaskets the assembly. So you really don't need it, and a lot of our lab test data show that there is no benefit of taping them. However, if the framer is off by an inch, these are supposed to be 24 inches on center or 16, but if he's off by 3/4 of an inch, you're missing the stud, then you're best off taping it to keep those MLV layers together. And then your other question, the sealant. So acoustic caulk, people know, the name brand Green Glue, but OSI or DAP, all of these brands have what's called a non-hardening caulk, which is just something that's not going to become very rigid over time. And you want to put that at the bottom, the top, and all the sides of the wall, and that's what's going to stop those rigid to rigid connections.
So you basically want to, you don't want the drywall to touch any of this surface.
Exactly. Anything rigid should not be touching anything else rigid. The wall blocker keeps the drywall from touching the studs, and then the caulk keeps the drywall from touching the concrete or the wood. And so then you've got basically a floated assembly with a lot of mass, with a lot of decoupling and damping, and you can just blare it in here and not wake up your wife.
Awesome. Well, guys, I'm excited about this, to actually have a room that's not only going to be acoustically controlled, which we'll do separate videos on, but to have it acoustically isolated and to lower the noise floor. And we're happy to have Commercial Acoustics here. They were a big help because honestly, I probably wouldn't have done the staggered studs. I wouldn't have probably done the double door. I wouldn't have considered all those things. After consulting with them, it all made sense. And I got my builder, who's not a custom builder, mind you, which is not an easy task. I got them to agree to this by meeting with this guy, Walker. He's very persuasive. So appreciate it, Walker.
Thanks, I appreciate you, man.
So we are really looking forward to, we're going to measure when this room is done.
We'll do an STC test in the field.
Yeah, we're going to do an STC test to see exactly how much isolation we have. So be on the lookout in a few months for another video follow-up. It's great having Commercial Acoustics here. It's great having Walker and the lovely Rachel behind the camera that you can't see, but let me just tell you, she's very lovely. But anyways, guys, if you like, she's blushing, I like it. Guys, if you like this video, please thumb it up. Please make sure you're subscribed to the channel or you can miss these kind of videos. Don't forget about our Patreon at patreon.com/audioholics. We put a lot of unique content there that's not on the YouTube channel. Plus, you help us produce more content. We appreciate your contribution. And until next time, my friends, keep listening. Okay, ready? Loosen up. Yeah, mine are killing me. Did too much the other day. Ready?
Ready.
All right. I have to be on this side. I feel awkward if I'm on the other side. It's like George Costanza. He's got to make his move.
Can't go left. Can't go left.
I'm a lefty.
Yeah.
That's it.
Forgot about the outro. I knew it was coming. I knew we were supposed to do something.
That's all right. Everybody misses it, but Don's like the only one that gets it now.
Well, Don's like your repeat.
Yeah.
Isn't he like your co-host essentially?
Yes.